All right, listen carefully.
This video was recorded a little over a week ago, on November 28th. The man you're about to see speak is a professor from Beijing called Di Dongcheng. The video comes from an appearance that he made on a Chinese television show about Wall Street and international trade. Di Dongcheng works at Renmin University in Beijing. He is also, like so many in academia in China, a servant of his country's government. This video was deleted from Chinese social media soon after being uploaded, and there's a reason for that, as you'll see.
I'll read the subtitles to you. The Trump administration's in a trade war with us. So why can't we fix the Trump administration? Why between 1992 and 2016 did China and the US used to be able to settle all kinds of issues, no matter what kind of crises we encountered? The bombing of the embassy, the crashing of the plane, things were resolved in no time, like a couple do with their quarrels, starting at the bed head but ending at the bed end. We fixed everything in 2 months. What the reason? I'm going to throw out something maybe a little bit explosive here. It's just because we have people at the top. At the top of America's core inner circle of power and influence, we have our friends.
There's a lot of garbage floating around the internet right now, a lot of fake things. That video is real, and those subtitles are accurate. We checked today with 2 different Chinese speakers and confirmed that. What he just said, what you just read on the screen, tells the story. This is as close to a smoking gun as we have ever seen. Quote, we have people at the top of America's core inner circle of power and influence. According to the man you just saw, that has been true for decades. So who are these people, and how many of them work in our media and in our government? Well, he didn't say precisely. At one point in the video, he described a Chinese agent working as a vice president at, quote, a top Wall Street financial institution. I can't say more, he explained, without making political trouble. Di Dongcheng did tell his audience that one agent in particular was especially useful, and he goes on at some length about her. He describes her as an American who's lived abroad for many years, who is now a Chinese citizen. And this seems to baffle him a little bit. The Chinese government doesn't allow dual citizenship. Why would they? Why would anyone? Di Dongcheng seems pleased that the US government is foolish enough to allow it. He explains that this American agent, who lives at least part of the year in Beijing, helped the Chinese government with a propaganda operation in the city of Washington in 2015. And he goes on to describe that in some detail. The Obama administration was easy to manipulate, he suggests. They helped. The Chinese had many friends among the Obama people. The problem came when Donald Trump was elected. After that, he says, everything changed.
Dave A. says, follow the money.
相对纽约来讲，要减掉20%，特别是佐治亚州的港口。
Delta, with their headquarters in Georgia.
是非常方便的。
Chinese people talking about other investment opportunities in the state of Georgia. We have some southern people, a lot of white and black people, which are typical demographic of the South. Georgia, USA. Come to USA, China, invest. Ron, also known as Cool Monkey Z, says, now I'm going to drop a bomb. Because we've had people up there inside America's core circle of power, we've had our friends, said Mr. D, adding that he needs to speak carefully because I can't sell out these people. The Washington Times has caught on to the fact that the Chinese are attempting to place their operatives at high levels of American power. Meanwhile, the bought-off MSM are commenting on Zuckerberg's allowance of free speech on Facebook. Listen to this nonsense.
Somewhat. They had a better election in 2020 than they did in 2016. They've learned to put some brakes on, here and there. But you can't get away from the fact that their mission is to connect everybody in the world. That's what motivates Mark Zuckerberg. And it's his passion. And he profoundly believes in free speech. And, those of us in journalism have to come to terms with the fact that free speech, a principle that we hold sacred is being weaponized against the principles of journalism. And what do we do about that? I just say, as reporters, we kind of march into this war with our facts nobly shouldered as if they were going to win the day. And what we're seeing is that because of the scale of this alternate reality that you've been talking about, our facts, our principles, our scientific method, it isn't enough. So
yes, and the question is, who is in the alternate reality? The other question is, why display the CV death total at all times on your channel? How bizarre is that, folks? I don't normally watch MSM, but this is really disturbing. So they want you to know exactly how many people have died from the condition at all times of the day. Just have it just plastered up there. Red numbers. The obvious underlying subconscious motivation to promote fear. Here's what DNI Ratcliffe tells Catherine Herridge about China.
6 times the frequency of Russia and 12 times the frequency of Iran. What is behind Beijing's aggressive approach?
So they want laws and policies out of the United States that are favorable to China. And what they're really trying to do is, through blackmail, through bribery, through overt and covert influence, trying to make sure that only laws that are favorable to China are passed.
Have you been to Capitol Hill and have you briefed this threat information to lawmakers?
I was so troubled by what I saw from the position as the Director of National Intelligence that I went and briefed both the House and Senate Intelligence Committees on this information, which they found surprising and troubling.
This guy on Twitter, Rising Serpent, brings us this beauty. Why does the state of Georgia have a Chinese website with Governor Brian Kemp desperately soliciting Chinese investments in a video message? Here's the website, but they'll probably take it down soon. The website is georgiabusiness.cn, which I think stands for China. Then you take some screenshots of the website. So here's a governor of Georgia, Chinese text below. Chinese news: invest $86 million US. New chemical company Chemours builds a new mine in Georgia and expands its business. Recently, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp announced that Chemours Titanium Technologies, well-known chemical company, will invest $86 million to expand its operations to Jessup County. He highlights the .cn web link. Welcome Chinese companies to settle in Georgia. Chinese companies settled in Georgia. Let's go ahead and navigate to that link there. We are then taken to this Georgia page. It has USA down there, but then on this welcome video, there's like a lot of Chinese text. Let's go ahead and check out this jazzy video here.
China is a top source for imports and our 3rd largest export market.
It's not sure if it's a copyright issue, but clearly you can see he's creating a video to encourage China to invest in Georgia. Just scrolling down. For your researchers, there is a place for you to download the video. COLX posted this about Brian Kemp. What if I told you Brian Kemp was bought and I showed you the meetings, transcripts, and financial compensation his family received to attempt to hide this transaction? Brian Kemp was previously Secretary of State, and he established the Secure, Accessible, and Fair Elections Commissions in April 2018 to study the options for Georgia's next voting system. A number of businesses submitted their specific proposals for this new initiative. As you see of this list, there's Dominion Voting Systems. That particular business won out. Of all the states that use the Dominion voting systems, Georgia uses it exclusively. Georgia also became the only state where every single precinct vote was recorded electronically. The new machines peddled by Election Security and Software, the nation's biggest vendor of voting technology, was designed to give the impression of being voter verifiable. But it's just a ruse. The machines produce a so-called paper ballot which voters can use to verify the text printout of their votes if they take time. But actually, it's the barcode beneath that's actually tallied electronically as the person's vote. And we all know there's not a person here that could read a barcode. Why are Kemp and friends in such a hurry to spend so much unnecessary money? Which is nearly the same as asking, why did Georgia officials give Dominion $107 million? It is noted that Kemp's deputy chief of staff, former state representative Chuck Harper, is a former lobbyist for ES&S and the odds favorite to win the Georgia contract if the $150 million is approved. Another, David Dove, was on a company's board of advisors and thus has been long enjoying the perks that ES&S offers the elections officials around the country. Airfare on trips to places like Las Vegas and New York, upscale hotel accommodations, and tickets to live events. And that was per Sue Halpern in The New Yorker. In March 2017, when Dove attended the ES&S junket in Las Vegas, Kemp's office was in the market to replace the state's entire inventory of voting machines. David Dove. Dove was Secretary Kemp's chief of staff at the time. Now he's Governor Kemp's executive counsel. We go to our Dominion voting system web of corruption, and we look for the connections to Brian Kemp. We see connected to Brian Kemp this individual, Jared Thomas, former chief of staff and press secretary. We find on the GellerReport.com article, one Dominion lobbyist, Jared Thomas, has worked on Kemp's political campaign since he first won a state Senate seat in 2002. He also worked previously for Kemp in his Secretary of State's office. Recently, InfoWars posted this article with the headline, "An investigation into SEC filings have revealed that the firm which owns Dominion Voting Systems received $400 million from a Swiss bank with close links to the Chinese government less than a month before the election." Okay, so the first thing to know about this article is you have the initial foundation, with the fact that Staple Street Capital acquired Dominion Voting Systems in 2018. So now focusing on Staple Street Capital, the article notes that they filed a Securities and Exchange Commission Form D offerings and sales amount of $400 million to UBS Securities. This is the document in question. Staple Street Capital is a filer. The instrument is a security, and a specific type of security is a private equity fund. The amount, $400 million. The recipient, UBS Securities LLC. So what I take from this document is UBS Securities purchased a security in Staple Street Capital's private equity fund for the amount of $400 million. Essentially an investment into Staple Street Capital, the business venture that owns Dominion Voting Systems. The controversy lies in the fact that UBS Securities, which is basically a Swiss investment bank, it owns a 24.99% stake in another business known as UBS Securities Co. Ltd., and this is a Chinese investment bank. The rest of the stake in that Chinese investment bank, the 75%, is owned by various other organizations within the Chinese government, and those are listed here. So in essence, we have a Swiss bank which has a stake in the Chinese banking system through a specific branch in China, also having a stake in Staple Street Capital, the business that owns Dominion Voting Systems. So there's existing concern that UBS may be compromised by Chinese interests. The other important thing to note about this relationship is that the specific filing was made just a month before the election on October 8th, 2020, which is very suspicious. When we go back to our web of corruption with Dominion Voting Systems, we find this individual, Houghton Yagubidze, who is connected to the Carlyle Group as well as Staple Street Capital. Now going back to that SEC filing, Houghton Yagubidze is also named, or I can pronounce it Yagubidze. It's noted that Houghton's former employer was the Carlyle Group, and the Carlyle Group has a connection directly to the CCP. The Carlyle Group entered China in 1994, fast becoming one of the earliest, largest, and most active global investment companies in the communist Chinese regime. In 2017, Carlyle acquired 19.9% stake in the China Pacific Insurance Company, making it the first international private equity firm to be approved by the CCP for investment into state-owned insurance company. In 2015, Carlyle expanded its Chinese portfolio by acquiring a controlling stake in Tongyi Lubricant. 2 years later, Carlyle partnered with CITIC Limited and CITIC Capital to acquire 80% stake in McDonald's both on mainland China and in Hong Kong. That same year, Carlyle and his partner invested in Adicon, one of the largest third-party independent medical testing companies in China. What this means is that a wealthy Jewish investor is overseeing a portfolio of companies and corporate influences that in essence stole the election for Biden with the help of communist Chinese regime. That investor they're referring to is Rubenstein, who, unsurprisingly, is also featured in the Dominion voting system web of corruption. I'll leave our discussion here surrounding Brian Kemp.
State, and we are constantly helping to develop new opportunities for Chinese companies.
佐治亚州港务署属下有2个深水海港，一个是沙法纳港，另外一个是布朗斯。
Yes, Lin Wood has much to say about Brian Kemp in China. What in the world has Brian Kemp, Georgia, done to GA? He is selling more than our votes to China. How much communist China's money is he receiving? How closely tied to communist China is he? Password Hunter 2 notes the Chinazi consulate in Houston is one of 25 known locations across the US where China installed undercover operatives to spy on US government, US business, and academic research institutions. And this image shows a picture of a Chinese official meeting with Kemp. I'm not sure what the context is. Some more pictures. Actually, this tweet provides a context. Governor Brian Kemp and Li Qiangmin, Consul General of Chinese Consulate in Houston, which has been shut down by Trump administration over espionage. So you have Brian Kemp, the individual who's now the governor of Georgia, who initially established the process of changing the voting system of the state in 2018, was able to oversee the purchase of a $107 million contract just 1 year prior to the election for Dominion voting system exclusivity in the state of Georgia. This same man is ruffling his feathers with the Chinese consulate in Houston, which was shut down by the Trump administration over fears of Chinese spying. CodeMonkey provides us the timeline. July 12, 2019, Kemp met Consul Li Qiangmin. July 29, 2019, Georgia signs contract for Dominion voting system statewide. It's like only 2 weeks later. Coincidence? As Jackson Williams says, and keep in mind, just today, Kemp and his lieutenant governor decide that there should be no special session in Georgia to address the fraud allegations. So yes, this man is right in the thick of it. People have the right to be suspicious. Foreign interference and corruption have formed a large wave which seems destined to break on this guy's head. The truth will continue to rise and bubble to the surface. Fight on, warriors.